My name is Derek Holbert. For kind of 15 years now, I've been a chief executive of video brands. I'm based in the US. I'm joined today with the co-founder and technical director of Netvio, and that's James Meredith. James and I have worked together for probably over 10 years, launching probably products in the hundreds over that time. And importantly, James has been an AVoIP product manager, technical director for well over 10 years. So his wealth of experience within this field is second to none. And again, Joe joining us from Dante, who is the EMEA sales manager. So just to give you a bit of background with Netvio, because I'm sure that there is quite a few people that probably haven't heard of the brand before. So just to give you sort of a bit of a background to the brand. During my sort of 15 years in the video industry, I hope that I've learned a few things kind of along the way. Really, Netvio is an accumulation of that experience to bring something different to the market. And I think the observations that I had when conceiving the Netvio idea was that there were unneeded sort of complications in terms of too many pieces of software needed to configure a system, too many overlapping products that becomes eventually a financial burden and a time burden for all brands are kind of operating at a 4K 6444 level over networks. So from a video perspective, it was really untenable. So simplifying complexity became our big kind of mantra for the brand, and it's actually a part of many decision-making processes that we have within an organization. So Netvio really has become a brand that is aiming to make things easier with less training, fewer products, everybody in the chain, including end users. We're developing innovative features, both in hardware and software, really to provide Netvio with a USP that is interesting to talk about, which differentiates us away from sort of the competition. And Netvio really focuses on increasing the value of Netvio solutions to our partners, to integrators, and also the end user. And what's nice is that many aspects of the sort of simplifying complexity mantra really synchronize very well with Dante and AV-A and what they're trying to achieve. Hence, one of the early contributors to the AV-A platform, and has really helped our sort of collaboration really over the last kind of 18 months as we work together to bring a product to market. And there are three main pieces of software that are in the Netvio sort of portfolio. And interestingly, we don't talk about black boxes too much in any presentation we give. A lot of focus is on the software and the tools that we provide within our products. Netvio 360 is a single point configuration software for the configuration of multiple video platforms. We really focused on the ease of device discovery. We have processes of auto discovery without sort of burdening anybody with complicated sort of network processes. 360 provides the feedback, two-way feedback in terms of system sort of configuration, and provides a secure device sort of routing with endpoint feedback. So you can sit on a network and control sort of routing and see within sort of real time in terms of the actual feedback. And importantly, it also includes the gateway into something called AppBuilder. It comes along with the products that you see in terms of HD-Base-T, AVoIP, and HDMI. So AppBuilder, having dedicated ourselves to providing a different type of control platform, how do we actually kind of achieve that? And that developed into a dedicated piece of software which we called AppBuilder, and what you see on the screen is basically a UI designer, which is totally code-free. We can train you in AppBuilder within an hour, not months and months of kind of training with a traditional control system. It's fast. You can build user interfaces within minutes and effectively drag in new devices. It's actually a powerful tool, customizing each user device with different profiles. And we have a growing list of sort of supported devices that we're adding each day, and everything is cloud updated to ensure that you're sort of fully up to date with the latest kind of versions. Audio integration partners that we made available within NetvioGo, and again, the utility controls audio and other things within the system. Interestingly, ISC will be showing a new multi-view device which you can drag onto the canvas. So the app itself really is identifying a gap in the market. So the NetvioGo app and the AppBuilder really is designed to sit in between a traditional control system, and I put there sort of a bucket of remote controls. I would say from the onset that it's not designed to replace a traditional control system, but it's a kind of a new tool that is offered to integrators for less complex projects, and complexity is either driven by reducing cost or the end user maybe not wanting to embark on a complex control system. So the app basically controls video sources, displays, audio systems, video walls, multi-view. So it's basically developed over time into quite a powerful application, which I'm emphasizing is free. I sometimes wonder, if it's a good financial decision to offer this for free as the functionality grows, but I can assure you that the application will be free. So what I would encourage you to do is probably grab your phones at this point, and it includes a demo mode, which you can access at the bottom of the opening screen, and you can use the NetvioGo app offline in all its functionality. So yeah, that's kind of Netvio. In terms of hardware, we have a sort of full range but concise, working on a sort of good, better, best principle. Today is the 4K 60 DNT, the Dante version, which is available now. So please be aware that this is not a pre-launch for anything. I'm going to hand over to Joe from Dante.
Thank you, Derek. And good morning, good afternoon, everyone. Thanks very much for joining us, and big thanks to Netvio for inviting me to come along today and share a bit more information around Dante AV, Dante AV-A, and some of the wonderful work that Netvio have done to release that with their new JP460 DNT. So what is Dante AV? Well, perhaps to kind of best understand what Dante AV is, it helps to kind of understand a brief history of Dante. For those of you that are already familiar with Dante, it's quite succinct. It's everything you already know and love about Dante on the audio side, but also now for video. For those of you who perhaps aren't familiar with Dante, Dante kind of came into the industry in the late noughties, around 2008, 2009, and it's essentially a way of, or was originally a way of sending kind of uncompressed multi-channel audio across Ethernet network. So in a world of analog multi-cores and lots of lorry loads of copper, it completely changed the way that the industry worked. And fast forward 10 years, we're very privileged to essentially be the de facto standard for audio over IP, and we work with some of the industry's biggest brands. So there's thousands of Dante audio products out there. We have a fantastic community and user base, and really moving towards video was the natural progression for us, because we had a lot of customers saying, we love everything that we can enjoy on the audio side. Wouldn't it be great if we had that for video as well? So if we kind of look at that a little bit more, what does that really mean? So what kind of justified the move into video? Well, as I mentioned, Dante is one of the largest, if not, well, it is the largest, certainly AV over IP ecosystem that exists in the industry. So there's hundreds of products, thousands of products out there which all interoperate together. So that's kind of one of the promises of Dante, is you get that interoperability between different manufacturers. You provide a universal or a tool, a single pane of glass with Dante controller to do things like configuration, routing, and APIs. We have a very large community, as I mentioned, with AV professionals. We have support networks, and it's really geared for anything that needs to be designed or deployed onto an enterprise network. And the Dante system can be a couple of devices, perhaps in a small studio or meeting room, right up to thousands of endpoints in a stadium, of which there is a few. So it's all about keeping things simplified, allowing that scalability across the network, and enabling design freedom through interoperability. So looking at Dante AV-A in particular then, so it's everything that you're kind of familiar with Netvio and their chipset. So you get that great 4K 60 444 distribution via kind of encoders and decoders. But with AV-A, you also gain the ability to control all of that routing using Dante controller side by side next to your audio, and we'll see a little bit more of that later. And you get 2 channels of Dante audio coming in to an endpoint or transmitter, as well as the ability to send 2 channels of Dante audio as well. So we're not having to hand off anymore to de-embedders, to decoders, and just kind of have expensive endpoints which are there purely to break out audio. Everything is natively talking to each other via the network. And of course, because we brought that into the Dante world, you get all of the great Dante controller and management solutions as well, which I know James is going to show you a bit later. So in terms of compatibility and interoperability, I touched on this a moment ago. So we have 4,000 Dante audio devices, all of which are compatible with this JP460 from Netvio. So I can interface with audio, Dante enabled audio DSPs, active speakers, studio monitors, you name it. And as long as I'm using an AV-A product, I have complete interoperability between those devices. It's all designed to run on a 1 gigabit network as minimum, but of course, as your requirements and endpoints and stuff change, we play nicely as well at higher bandwidths. So I said a moment ago about the routing, which you'll see a little bit more of on this next slide. If you see the screenshot on the right hand side, it might be a little bit small, but hopefully you can just about make that out. As those of you familiar with Dante controller will be aware, you get your transmitters along the top and then your receivers along the left hand side. And if you see on the left, we would normally just have audio channels there, but you can now, if you look closely, you'll see that we now have a video channel exposed as well. So that means that I get complete independent routing of my video and audio streams, even if they're from the same device, and I'm still enjoying that one-click routing, which I'm used to having used Dante controller. Next slide, please. So if we look at what's available with AV-A, as I mentioned, you get the 2x2 Dante audio capability, you get full interoperability and routing between transmitters and receivers for video devices, whether that's one-to-one or one-to-many, and you'll soon be able to get the ancillary control as well. So not only can you route your audio and your video signals, but you'll also be able to route your USB, IR, serial, and things like that. So from a single pane of glass, I've got complete routing and a very quick ability to establish those different routes, and I can see everything side by side. So I'm no longer having to dive into different network segments or systems in order to make this possible, and I only need to learn and understand one workflow. So in that sense, it's extremely powerful. Next slide, please, Derek. So as I touched on a moment ago, before the world of AV-A, these things would have been very separate. So you can see the image on the left shows what would have existed before AV-A. In many instances, it was essentially a dual port device, because Dante audio would have required one port, and then your proprietary video would have existed on a second port. However, now they can exist harmoniously side by side, which is great, because that massively reduces the complexity of your network configuration. It reduces the amount of ports that you need on your switch. It helps troubleshooting. It reduces overall cost. So actually, what seems like a small change, okay, we've lost a port, does have quite significant ramifications in terms of the improvements and cost savings that it offers. So this is a big step forward for those who work with Dante audio and IP-based video. So some of the Dante control and management solutions that some of you may have heard of already. We have Dante Controller, which I've referenced a few times. That's essentially a Windows or Mac-based application, which is free to download off of our website. When I open Dante Controller, it's going to discover all of the devices, all of the Dante-enabled devices that are on the network, regardless of whether I'm using an audio DSP from brand A or a Netvio video decoder as we're discussing here. I'm going to see all of that in a single pane of glass, and I'm going to be able to just simply click where I want those routes to be established. I'm able to go into the configuration settings and make changes to things like latency and EDID. And it's essentially where I start with setting up my system or monitoring my routes. And what we have on top of that, so that's kind of the world as we call it in unmanaged Dante. So that's where anything's plugged into the network. And if I open Dante Controller, I'm going to discover those devices on the network. That's nice and simple, it's nice and effective, but sometimes you do want a little bit more control and security, so people can't just discover your devices and start fiddling around. So some of you may be familiar with Dante Domain Manager. Dante Domain Manager is an on-premise solution which can be virtualized or stood up as a server, and it allows you to isolate devices to particular groups, and that might be rooms, that might be teams, that might be different offices, and it allows you to monitor the status of those devices, add different users to the system, set different permissions, set alerts when something goes wrong. And it's great, especially when you're working with quite a large site or quite a high number of devices. We've also recently launched Dante Director, and Dante Director offers a lot of similar functionality to DDM, but it's purely cloud-based. So this is fantastic for anyone who doesn't want to stand up an on-premise server, or perhaps doesn't need to. It's just simply cost prohibitive or too heavy solution to manage a few devices. So this is where Dante Director really comes in, because as long as those devices have access to the internet, I can enroll them to Dante Director, and I can enjoy a lot of the benefits around monitoring my clocking, my latency, monitoring my routing, and setting those permissions. And I know James is going to share a little bit more with you on that later. So we have our kind of local only unmanaged solution with Dante Controller, our cloud-based solution with Dante Director, and then our on-premise solution with DDM. Next slide, please, Derek. So to look at that a little bit more, as I mentioned, both Dante Director and Dante Domain Manager are SaaS-based products. The kind of subscription to them is slightly different. You can find the information for Dante Director and DDM on our website. DDM is sold through a reseller channel because there's a level of support which we wrap around that. Dante Director is I would say a quicker route to access, a lower barrier to entry. You can go onto our website, you can create an account, and you can start playing around with that straight away. So some of the things that I previously mentioned around security, permissions, and auditing. If you've got a large university or some sort of corporation which wants to integrate, their LDAP or Active Directory servers with their users and create different permissions that way, that's something that we can absolutely do. And one of the things that it does allow you to do as well, which is quite critical on both senses, is manage hardware across different devices. So if I've got different Dante networks that I want to connect together so I can route between them, DDM allows you to do that. Next slide, please. And one of the important things to really highlight today is that one of the great advantages of Dante is that it's largely decentralized. So there's no kind of single controller or single device which has to manage other Dante devices. They all kind of exist in their own state, which is great and very resilient. But it does make things like introducing an API a little bit challenging. So one of the huge benefits of DDM and Director is once I've got my devices enrolled in those environments, I then have a kind of God's eye view, if you like, over what my system is doing. And that provides a great opportunity to be able to introduce external API control. So if I want to change my routing of Dante devices, or I want to interrogate what the system's doing because I'm using a traditional control system from Crestron, Extron, QSys, or perhaps I'm building my own little control GUI or web interface, I can do all of that via DDM and Dante Director. It's a GraphQL-based API, so it's quite nice to work with. It's very scalable and it's easy to adapt. You can take a look at it on our website to get an idea of some of the functions that we offer. But again, that's something that I think anywhere where you're dealing with a professional system, a production system, of course, as Derek stressed at the start there, we all know the importance of being able to control those. So yes, definitely take a look at Dante Director and DDM, because I think from a position of being able to manage AV over IP systems, we're quite uniquely poised in the sense that we have those very mature and enterprise-friendly solutions to look after your customer's investment. Thanks, Derek. So kind of where are we seeing AVA? Well, anywhere really where you have a Dante either an existing or an upcoming Dante audio requirement. So that might be, for example, in a house of worship where they already use a lot of Dante audio for the live sound. They might have repeater screens for things like lyrics or signage. And again, previously those systems would have been very separate. They would have been probably disconnected and maybe even looked after by different people with different skill sets. But that's no longer kind of critical or even necessary, because if I'm familiar with Dante as a whole, I don't, there's nothing new to become that familiar with to start bringing video into the picture as well. So anywhere I have a one-to-many requirement, anywhere where I want the ability to remote into the system and see what's going on from anywhere in the world, anywhere where I need to provide that kind of enterprise grade of security and management, and have, as I said earlier, Dante audio and video living harmoniously together. So certainly hospitality and leisure, sports bars, casinos, auditoriums, there really is no limitation as to where it could go if you want Dante audio and video side by side. Next slide, please, Derek. So in terms of the training and support that we offer, this is actually quite an important heritage for Audinate, and we're quite proud of the training and support that we do offer. Some of you may have sat with various Dante certification courses over the years, but we have the Dante certification program, which is really designed for all levels of expertise. So we have different courses according to your knowledge and your experience. I would strongly recommend everyone sits Dante level 1, Dante certification level 1. It provides a really good foundational knowledge of Dante as a whole, and that's around, I think, about an hour. It's an online course, and thereafter I would recommend sitting the Dante AV course just to get a bit more insight into the AV side of things. But if you've got that foundational knowledge to start, it will certainly help set some of the context. And the good news is if you've got CTS or Avixa AMP or CEDIA credits, all of the courses have credits attached to them. So this is quite a respected, industry recognized certification program. And we welcome anyone to get involved. We have a lot of people who take this Dante certification level 1 just to get some good knowledge on IP systems, and understand DHCP versus DNS and unicast versus multicast. So it's a good kind of educational course to do, even if you're in this industry and not necessarily working with Dante. But of course, we hope you are. And then for the power users amongst us that are often called in to fix things or spend a lot of time designing customer systems, we have the Dante Mastery courses, and they are only held in person. And you can check out the upcoming dates and locations on our website. We do tend to try and attach them to trade shows because it saves people kind of traveling twice. But yeah, as I say, we cater for every level, so please check that out. And then last but not least, we have support teams in each region. So no matter where you're located, you can be sure to have a timely response. So thank you so much for joining, and yeah, appreciate it. I'm going to hand over to James. I hope you found that useful, and I'll be on at the end to take any questions. Thanks.
Yeah, hi, thanks, Joe. Really appreciate your input there. We're going to hand over to James, and I'm going to switch him to a presenter, so just bear with me 1 second. In the meantime, please keep your questions rolling in. Like I say, there will be a Q&A session at the end. We've got quite a few questions in there so far, so between now and the end of the presentation, please make your questions. Okay, I'm going to make James a presenter.
Brilliant. Thank you, Derek. Thank you to Joe as well, not just for his presentation today, but for all of his help working as the go-between between us and Audinate in order to deliver the Dante products that we're launching or have now launched. Yeah, There are a lot of familiar names on the call today who know me, but just as many that I don't. So thank you very much for joining. When Derek and I founded Netvio 3 years ago now, we wanted to really innovate in this space, which, as Derek mentioned, we want to do through both hardware and through software. But there were many things that we wanted to achieve within Netvio that when the Dante AV was introduced to us, instantly solved what we saw as a lot of problems with the system, particularly with the power of Dante's online architecture and cloud architecture that they've built. So I want to give you a demonstration of that today. So I want to just start with the product themselves. Everyone is familiar with AV over IP encoders and decoders. And the Netvio JP460 DNT products come pre-licensed with the Dante license out of the box. So there is no additional software steps or firmware to install in order to get these licensed as Dante AV products. But the product also has two personalities as well. So it can be utilized straight out of the box and discovered by Dante controller, which would put it into Dante AV mode. And in that mode, there is no central controller. It enables connection to the Dante ecosystem, and connection through DDM or Dante Director will enable remote access and third-party control through the cloud. So it removes this central controller from the system that can often be seen as a single point of failure for your entire system. So this is really, really powerful, enables incredible remote access, which I'm going to show you, and control, and also online alerts to multi-site systems where you're not necessarily on site all the time. Then with Netvio mode, this is a more traditional system. So this uses our CL controller as the central point and enables third-party control by direct communication with that controller. So that is all configured through the Netvio 360 software that Derek showed earlier, and integrates with any third-party network switches, but also for plug-and-play experience utilizes our Netvio IPSW series switches as well. So this is the hardware. It's about the size of your hand. It's less than 1 inch thick as well. There are no fans. It uses standard PoE, which is something we firmly believe in. And the AV-A platform is based on the A-Speed chipset as well, which runs all of the Netvio AV over IP series. We really see that as the best value offering 44460 with HDR across a 1 gig network with visually lossless compression. You've got audio input and breakout on the encoder. You've got audio breakout on the decoder, as well as RS232 and IR pass-through on both devices, and an HDMI loop-through for confidence monitors on the encoder as well. And I really want to highlight that although the ancillary channel routing will be available through Dante AV, within the Netvio mode as well, we have the ability to address those ports from control system via our API, so you can utilize them to fire commands out to the third-party devices there as well. As I mentioned, we really wanted to innovate with Netvio. We wanted to make sure that our products had features that were not available on other solutions. And 18 months ago, when we launched the JP460 series, we launched with Content Plus, which is a secondary encoder built into every one of our encoder devices. And that is on our JP4, JP460 and JP460 DNT series. So for over 2 years, we've had this feature. And this is the distribution of content to third-party devices via an RTSP stream that can be configured to either H.264 or H.265 at 2K with a stereo audio feed. And the Netvio 360 software or our JP460 configuration software produces this RTSP URL that you can simply key into any supported device. That could be lecture capture, it could be OBS for streaming online. Here I've copied it simply into VLC, and when I run it, I'm instantly streaming the content from that encoder at up to 1080p in H.264, 265 with stereo audio on board as well, so I can simply listen to the content. And we utilize this to great effect within our NetvioGo app as well, by enabling control over the RTSP stream, so you can actually navigate menus of devices within the app. So really, really powerful. A great way to be used. Every installation we do, the users seem to find different ways to use it. But I think one of my favorites was a company I worked with in London who were utilizing the RTSP stream via a VPN in order to configure source devices for their customer. And they were utilizing Crestron control that they had control of from their office, and they were able to simply navigate and set up settings with all of the source devices when the customer had made mistakes in their configs. So huge applications for this, but most importantly, the ability to remotely access these sources. One of the other innovations that we created was memory partitioning within the devices. I think this has been standard on network switches for many, many years, but hasn't really been seen in AV over IP. And this is one of the key areas where there is huge risk in any system, especially when you have potentially hundreds of endpoints on a system that all need a firmware update. On a 1% failure rate, that could be 1 or 2 devices failing, and we wanted to eliminate that from being a risk on our system. So all Netvio AV over IP solutions now ship with 2 memory partitions, and at any given time we are only updating one of those partitions. So should there be a failure due to power outages, network outages, any problem that could occur during the update process, on reboot it will simply fail over to the other partition and start as usual so that it can be updated again. So we've eliminated return to base failures caused by firmware updates. So the main demo today is going to be in AVA mode. The Netvio mode, I really encourage you to come and see us at ISE for a full demonstration of the Netvio system. Both AVA will be running, and also the Netvio system with our new multi-viewer. But we see where the benefits of AVA really kick in are medium to large scale deployments, so particularly multi-building and multi-site environments. Dante is already familiar to the AV and the IT teams due to the pre-existing audio devices, so really integrates seamlessly with any existing audio workflow. All of the powerful software tools from Dante, Domain Manager, Director, Dante Soundcard, Dante AV-A, these are phenomenal solutions that will instantly integrate with any of the audio from our AVA platform. But particularly, I think the key features that it adds now are monitoring, alerts, and logging that are so important to really understand what is going on across the AV network. And then for larger corporations who have an on-site IT team, and they're utilizing things like SNMP monitoring, LDAP, and Active Directory, Domain Manager now brings the AV over IP solutions into those environments and into that software so that the IT team can monitor all of these devices. And I think that's a really, really huge innovation for AV over IP within the industry. So one of the big changes with Dante AV-A is that for the first time we're now giving WAN access to the AV over IP switch and VLAN. So the system now needs to communicate with the cloud. So I think that's the biggest change that is happening on the setup and configuration of AV over IP. We're not completely disconnecting the system from online, and we are connecting to all audio, video, and third-party devices connect. We're still using multicast and IGMP, And today I'm using a Netgear AV line switch with video and Dante audio video profiles set. The other piece of software we have is the Dante, the JP460 DNT configuration tool. This is a simple utility that Netvio have written just to provide some additional functionality over and above Dante AV-A. So Netvio develops very powerful EDID, HDCP, and scaling management within our system. And we've brought that to Dante AV-A that some other manufacturers may not have. The other thing, of course, we needed was Content Plus and providing the URLs within Dante AV as well. So it also provides that Content Plus and configuration of that, as well as utilizing firmware updates with our fail-safe memory partitioning. So that's enough chat. I'm going to just share my camera now so you can see everything I'm seeing here. So hopefully that will come through in just a second. And I'll stop sharing. Hi, everybody. So here I have my system set up. It's a 4-encoder, 2-decoder system. I have this laptop running Dante controller, but don't worry, I'm going to share my screen again from my other laptop so you can see exactly what's going on here in a minute. And effectively, this is the interface that you'll already be familiar with in Dante controller. I can begin routing audio. I can start switching video around the system as well, just as if I'm utilizing it within the local network here. And what I'm going to do now is just switch over again and share my screen so that you can see Dante controller locally. And what I'm going to do is show you how easy it is to add the system to Dante controller. So bear with me. Okay, so in Dante controller, here you can see my main display output, and across the top I have all of my encoders. I can also see the Dante encoders for audio from my RXs as well, because of course each device is a 2x2 Dante unit. And in here, I'm currently not logged in to my director account. So this is everything on the local network. If I connect to my Dante director account, then I will have the option to assign these devices to my my online account. So here I can select in Dante director the sites that I've already set up. I can select all, and now I can add those to my online account. And one by one, they will start to disappear from my local network. And I can then switch over to my connection to the UK office, where it will then load up each of those devices, and I will see them just as if I was on the local network. And I can now switch between each of my my sites, and I can access and control those devices as if they were here on the local network with me, and all of the functionality of Dante controller will work for me as if I was on the local network itself. So instantly you can see just how powerful it is to have full control of the system, but also have all of the information from your Dante network about versioning speeds, any status or clock issues within the system, network and events logging available as well. So true remote access to the system and incredibly powerful there. And also Dante Director provides a great web portal to the system as well. And you can see here my 3 sites, and I get a top view level of the network. I can see that all my 6 devices I've just added to the system are online and okay. I can see that I've got a connectivity issue in the Canada office with a device offline and currently no devices set. I can log in, get further information, toggle right down to individual devices, checking all of their info. And I can set up users as well in my account. So I can have master users, administrators who can manage and add and delete devices. And then I can set up users who are only able to switch content as well. So this is really, really huge and really, really powerful functionality that has simply just not been available on other solutions. After today's presentation, we will be sharing a content pack which will include this range comparison. But I really want to highlight today that all of the Netvio systems are 4K. JP460 and DNT are both 4K 60 Hz with full HDR support. All of our solutions include the Content Plus RTSP stream that I showed you just a minute ago. But only really the Dante, the DNT units come pre-licensed with Dante AV. All very, very low latency, all have our powerful EDID management and independent display scaling with video wall support. But please feel free to look at this after today's event.